Imagine walking into a graveyard and seeing your own name carved into a tombstone with the date of your death next week. Would you run or stay to see why it's waiting for you? Tonight, we follow a story that begins like any ordinary weekend road trip, with friends joking, taking pictures, and exploring abandoned places. But what happens when curiosity leads them to a grave that shouldn't exist? A grave with a name that shouldn't be written, and a countdown they can't escape. Turn off the lights, put on your headphones, and listen closely. Every shadow, every whisper, and every heartbeat matters, because in this story, the grave doesn't just wait, it watches, and sometimes it writes back.
I shouldn't be alive right now. At least, not according to the dirt beneath my shoes. The rain was falling hard enough to drown my thoughts, a steady rhythm that sounded too much like a heartbeat coming from the ground. My flashlight trembled in my hand as I read the name carved into the stone again and again, hoping, praying it would somehow change. My name. Same spelling, same middle initial, even the same chipped serif on the first letter, as if someone had traced it from my driver's license. Below it, the date of death. Next week. A living person shouldn't have a death date, but there it was, freshly etched, the stone still damp from recent carving. The soil was newly turned, dark and heavy with the smell of rain and rot. Whoever or whatever dug this grave had done it recently. Lightning flashed, white and merciless. The world blinked for a second, and I thought I saw movement, a figure, half shadow, half memory, standing at the edge of the cemetery road, watching. When the thunder hit, it was gone. My throat went dry. Hello? Nothing but rain and the groan of wind through dead branches. I took a step closer to the headstone, my boots sinking slightly in the mud. A hollow thud sounded beneath me, faint but undeniable, like knocking from under the ground. I told myself it was just water filling a pocket of air, just earth settling. But then it came again, 3 knocks, measured, deliberate. I stumbled back, flashlight jerking in my hand, beam slicing across the graveyard. Every shadow looked like it wanted to move. The rows of crooked stones, the black sky pressing down on me, it all felt staged, as if someone had built this entire place just to see how I'd react. A shallow laugh escaped my mouth, shaky and half hysterical. Okay, this is some kind of prank. But the laughter didn't sound like mine. It sounded like an echo that arrived a beat too late, repeating the same words in a whisper I didn't make. I wanted to run, but part of me needed to know what was inside. My fingers touched the soil, wet, cold, slick like skin. It wasn't just dirt, it was warm in places, pulsing faintly like it was alive. That's when I realized the worst part. The grave wasn't just for me, it was waiting for me. A soft vibration buzzed against my chest, my phone. When I pulled it out, the screen had already turned on without me touching it. A calendar notification glowed against the glass. Funeral. My name, 7 days. I dropped the phone. It hit the mud with a dull splat, and the notification disappeared, swallowed by the rain. For a second, I couldn't move, couldn't breathe. The thunder rolled again, and in that brief flash, I thought I saw someone standing behind the headstone now, crouched, smiling. When the light faded, they were gone. I ran. I don't remember which direction or how long, only that the sound of rain followed me like it was chasing me. When I finally looked back, the flashlight was still lying there, its beam aimed at the grave, at my name. If you're wondering how this happened, how I ended up staring at my own grave, I can tell you this much. It started 3 days before I found it.
3 days earlier, everything was normal, or at least normal enough for me, Mia, and Devin. We'd been planning the road trip for weeks, an aimless weekend drive through the countryside to photograph forgotten places. Old barns, shuttered motels, peeling paint, things that looked beautiful in decay. Mia called it rustic apocalypse aesthetic. Devin just wanted drone footage he could post with horror music. It was one of those gray mornings that promised rain but never delivered. The car smelled like coffee and junk food, the kind of combination that feels safe because it's familiar. We joked, argued about playlists, and tried to ignore the bad directions Devin swore were shortcuts. "Left," Mia said, chewing on a straw. "Not that your sense of direction matters, since your brain runs on static." Devin grinned from the driver's seat. "Static's where ghosts talk. That's how I get my best ideas." I laughed. "Then explain why all your ideas end with us almost getting arrested or mauled by raccoons." He smirked in the rearview mirror. "That's called adventure." The highway melted into narrow rural roads lined with skeletal trees. Fields stretched out endlessly, all colored drained except for the dull green of grass fighting through winter's leftovers. We passed maybe 3 cars in an hour, all locals, all staring too long as we drove by. Mia noticed. "Why does everyone out here look like they've been waiting for us?" "Because we're probably the first outsiders they've seen this month. You city people are allergic to open space." She rolled her eyes, but I caught her looking back out the window a little longer than before. We stopped at a gas station that looked like it had been frozen since 1985. The attendant, an older man with clouded eyes, didn't speak at first. When Devin asked for directions, the man's head tilted slightly, like the question confused him. "Where you kids headin'?" he asked finally. "Just exploring," Devin said, "looking for old stuff, cemeteries, barns, abandoned towns. You know, creepy but cool." The man's face didn't move, but his eyes flicked to the road behind us. "Plenty old things around here, but some ain't meant to be found." Mia stiffened. "Sorry?" He scratched at his arm, nails dragging slow. "People who stop by the Old West Road, they don't come back right." For a moment, no one said anything. Devin laughed, trying to break the tension. "Sounds like a perfect photo op." The man didn't laugh back. He just handed over the receipt and muttered, "Don't stay after dark." Back in the car, Mia elbowed him. "Creepy local warning achieved. You happy now?" Devin's grin widened. "Absolutely." The GPS lost signal half an hour later, and Devin shrugged it off and turned down a narrow gravel lane that didn't appear on any map. I didn't realize we were lost until I noticed the same twisted oak tree pass by 3 times. "Devin," Mia said carefully, "we're going in circles." He frowned. "No, we're not. The road just loops." "That's literally what circles do." I leaned forward. "Just stop for a second. We'll figure it out." He braked near a clearing where the grass was tall and uneven. The world felt muted. No wind, no birds, just the quiet hum of the engine. The air carried a damp, earthy smell. And then I saw it. Through the trees, behind a rusted iron gate half swallowed by vines, was a cluster of crooked headstones. Small, forgotten, tucked away like the land wanted to hide them. Mia followed my gaze and sighed. Of course it's a cemetery. Why is it always a cemetery? Devin turned off the engine and grinned. Because ghosts love me. Because you're an idiot, she said. He laughed, already unbuckling. Come on, one quick shot. You can't say no to that lighting. I hesitated, staring through the windshield. The stones looked old, yes, but some looked disturbingly new. The soil around a few was freshly turned, darker than the rest. I don't think we should, I began. Relax, Devin interrupted, grabbing his camera. 5 minutes. It's literally a tiny graveyard in the middle of nowhere. What's the worst that could happen? Mia groaned, but followed him anyway. I sighed and reached for my jacket. The air outside was colder than I expected, thick with the smell of rain. As I stepped onto the gravel, a chill crawled up my spine, not from the wind, but from something else. I glanced back once at the road, where the gray horizon disappeared into nothing. It felt like we'd crossed some invisible line without meaning to. Devin was already halfway through the gate, calling over his shoulder, "Come on, guys! One picture, then we're out." I wish we'd turned back right then.
The gate groaned like something alive when Devin pushed it open. Rust flaked off in red crumbs that looked too much like dried blood. The smell of rain mixed with moss and old soil. I hesitated at the threshold, my fingers brushing against the cold metal bars. The place wasn't large, maybe 20, 30 graves at most, but it felt dense, like the air itself had thickened around us. Vines crawled up the stones, wrapping around names that time had almost erased. A few graves had been swallowed completely by roots, only their edges still visible through the tangle of green. "Damn," Devin said, raising his camera. "Look at the light coming through those trees. It's cinematic." Mia groaned. "Cinematic? It looks like tetanus and ghosts had a baby." He laughed, moving deeper in. I followed reluctantly, the wet ground squishing beneath my shoes. Every step sounded too loud. I kept telling myself it was just a place, just an old cemetery we'd stumbled into. But something about it didn't feel abandoned. Some of the graves were unnaturally clean, their stones free of moss, soil around them freshly turned. Mia noticed it too. "These look new," she said softly. "Like recently dug new." He turned, grinning. "Maybe someone's still using the place. Family plots, old town tradition, whatever." "Yeah," she muttered, "except there's no town within 20 miles. I moved closer to one of the newer graves. The stone was pale, unweathered, carved with precision. The date on it was from just last month. But what caught my eye was the second grave beside it, half buried under a mess of gnarled roots. Only the top half of the stone was visible. Something about it pulled at me. Curiosity first, then unease. I crouched down, brushing the wet leaves aside. The stone was smooth under the dirt, carved in the same careful style as the others. I dug at the roots until more of the name emerged. My stomach tightened. It was my name. I froze. My breath clouded in front of me, though the air wasn't that cold. Mia's voice cut through the silence. "Hey, what's wrong?" I didn't answer. My hand trembled as I wiped the rest of the dirt away. The letters were perfect. Every curve, every serif. The birth date matched mine. And below that, the date of death. Exactly 1 week from today. I heard Devin laugh behind me. "Okay, that's messed up, but also, that's hilarious. Imagine the views if I post this." He lifted his phone. Hashtag found my own grave challenge. Mia stepped forward sharply. "Don't you dare. Devin, stop filming." He shrugged. "Relax, it's obviously a coincidence. Maybe it's another person with the same name." "There's no last name," I interrupted. My voice came out low, unfamiliar. "Just my first name, the same way I spell it online. No one spells it that way here." That silenced him. The wind picked up, whispering through the trees like a warning. Mia's tone softened. "Don't touch it, okay? Just step away." But I couldn't. Something inside me, something stupid, reckless, wanted to feel it, to prove it wasn't real. I reached out and pressed my fingers to the cold surface. The instant I touched it, a pulse shot through me. Not pain, more like the shock of being dunked in ice water. My heart stuttered, then skipped. The ground seemed to shift under my feet, a tiny tremor that rippled outward like the earth exhaled. I stumbled back, gasping. Devin lowered his phone. "You okay?" I don't know," I whispered. My fingertips burned where they'd met the stone. For a second, I thought I saw movement beneath the soil, a faint stirring like something pushing upward. Mia grabbed my arm. "We're leaving, now." Devin hesitated. "Come on, you're both overreacting. It's just a weird grave. Maybe some sick local joke." "Then the joke's on whoever touches it," she snapped. "Let's go." We walked back toward the gate, but I couldn't stop glancing over my shoulder. The grave looked the same. Still, quiet, harmless. Yet I couldn't shake the feeling that it was aware of me now, like I'd drawn its attention. Halfway to the car, Devin broke the silence with a nervous laugh. "Okay, that was freaky, but the footage is gold. Maybe we found our viral moment." "Delete it," Mia said immediately. "What? Why?" "Because it's not funny," she hissed. "You didn't see how he looked? It's like it touched him back." I didn't say anything. I didn't have the words. My chest still felt heavy, my pulse uneven. The air outside the gate felt different, somehow. When we got back to the car, Devin checked his camera screen. "Huh, that's weird." Mia rolled her eyes. "What now?" "The clip's corrupted, like totally glitched, static, distortion, the whole thing." He held up his camera. For a moment, I saw the thumbnail, a blur of gray and shadow. Then the screen flickered and went black. Mia looked at me. "Delete it." He didn't. Of course he didn't. As we drove away, I couldn't stop thinking about that grave, about the feeling when I touched it, about the way the earth had moved, not like something shifting below me, but like something responding. I should have forgotten it, laughed it off. But that night, when I tried to sleep, I kept hearing faint scraping sounds, like soil being moved. And I swear, I could still feel that cold pulse under my skin.
Back home, I thought I could convince myself it was over. That the strange cemetery, the half-buried grave, the cold pulse when I touched the stone, it was all some fluke, a coincidence, a story we'd laugh about later. I sat on my bed, rain still dripping from my jacket onto the floor, and pulled up Devin's camera footage. The first few clips were nothing but shaky trees and muffled laughter. Then I found it. The exact moment I touched the grave. I paused the frame. For the briefest instant, one blink, there was a shadow behind me. Not Devin, not Mia, not anything I recognized. Just a tall, dark figure standing still, its head slightly tilted, like it was studying me. I jerked back, heart hammering. The frame lasted less than a second, but the image burned itself into my mind. I shook my head. "It's nothing," I whispered, but the words sounded hollow. I rewound and replayed it. Same shadow, same tilt of the head. My fingers hovered over the mouse as if letting it vanish on its own would make me safer, but I couldn't stop. Later that night, I tried to sleep, telling myself the sound I heard was the wind. But then came the faint scrape, scrape, scrape of metal against soil. I froze. My apartment was on the 4th floor. There was no garden beneath my window. No one should have been out there. I crept to the window and peered down. The alley below was empty, drenched in lamplight and rain. But when I glanced at the sill, there it was, a small mound of dirt, wet and freshly upturned. My stomach lurched. I must be imagining this, I muttered. But every night since then, I've heard it, digging. The faint scrape of a shovel, the hollow thunk of soil being moved. It's always outside my window, just beyond reach, just enough to remind me it's there, waiting. I tried to tell myself it was my neighbor, someone working late in their tiny rooftop garden or construction crew doing late-night repairs. But the dirt never appeared anywhere else, just under my window. And I never saw a single figure, just the sound and the mound and that feeling of being watched. I couldn't sleep. I didn't go out. My phone rang constantly with missed notifications from Devin and Mia asking if we were okay. I didn't answer. How could I explain this? Even if they had witnessed the cemetery, the grave, the cold pulse, they'd probably chalk it up to adrenaline or prank hysteria. Every glance toward the window made my pulse spike. The shadows seemed to linger longer, reaching farther across the room than they should. I stopped looking at the camera footage, too. Each replay made my skin crawl. The shadow might not have been real, but the dirt was, and dirt didn't lie. By morning, the mound had been smoothed over, as if someone, or something, didn't want me to see how much had been dug. But I knew. I could feel it. Something was waiting for me, counting down. When I finally forced myself to stand, I made a decision. I couldn't just sit here hoping it would end. I needed answers. I needed proof. And the only way to get it was to go back. Devin and Mia agreed reluctantly. "You're insane," Mia said, gripping her coat. "If this is a prank, I swear I'll never speak to you again." Devin just grinned. "This is going to make the best story ever. TikTok gold, baby." I didn't care about stories or videos anymore. I just needed to know if what we saw, what I touched, was real. The plan was simple. Go back to the cemetery during daylight, see for ourselves, and maybe, just maybe, prove it was nothing more than coincidence. I just didn't know yet that daylight doesn't always protect you.
We arrived at the cemetery just as the sun dipped low, casting long shadows that stretched across the overgrown grass. Even in daylight, the place felt different, heavier somehow, as if the air itself had thickened overnight. The gravel path we had walked so carefully before was now littered with sticks and leaves in patterns that didn't exist the day we came. I froze at the gate. Something was off. The graves were rearranged. Not naturally, like the wind had blown things around, but deliberately. Headstones were shifted, some leaning at odd angles, as if they'd been physically moved. The grave with my name, which had been half buried under roots before, was now fully exposed, freshly covered, soil dark and loose, edges sharp and unnaturally neat. Mia's eyes widened. This isn't right. Devin stepped forward, camera in hand, though he no longer seemed eager. "It's probably just someone else maintaining the place," he said, his voice unusually quiet. I followed the path toward the grave. My chest tightened. Something about the way the soil reflected the last light made it feel alive. Then I saw it. A second headstone, half buried in the mud,
the letters just barely visible. I bent down, brushing the dirt away. Mia stiffened. No. I swallowed hard. The name on the stone was hers. Mia. She stepped back sharply, eyes wide, pale. That's not... It can't be. Devin laughed nervously, though there was no humor in his tone. Maybe it's, I don't know, a weird coincidence? No, I said, my voice shaking. No coincidences anymore. A sudden rustle behind the trees made all three of us tense. A man stepped out from the shadows, old and thin, with a weathered face and hands that looked like they'd been digging for decades. The local groundskeeper, I realized, too late, had been here all along. "You've been written in," he said, voice low but steady. "You should have left it alone." I blinked, heart hammering. "Written in?" He nodded slowly. "Some graves are not for the dead. They're for the living. Names chosen, dates set. Once it's written, it wants fulfillment. You can't undo it." Mia grabbed my arm, trembling. "What does that mean? Are you saying we're gonna die?" The groundskeeper didn't answer. His eyes held mine, unblinking, like he was weighing my soul against some invisible ledger. Then he stepped back and vanished among the trees, leaving only the sound of wind and the faint creak of leaning headstones. Devin, pale and silent, wandered a few steps away. Then he was gone. A flash of movement, and I realized he had disappeared entirely. Panic clawed at my chest. "Devin, where are you?" Mia shook her head, frozen. He's just gone." Minutes passed, though it felt like hours. Then he reappeared at the far edge of the cemetery, eyes wide, body trembling, lips pressed together as if he'd swallowed words he wasn't allowed to speak. He didn't say a word, only looked at us with a hollow expression. His hands were covered in dark soil, dirt under his nails. I noticed his gait was off, almost shuffling. He seemed distant, like someone else was controlling him, though his eyes darted with fleeting moments of recognition. Mia whispered, "We should leave, now." I nodded, but my mind raced. Written in. The words burned in my head. I didn't understand fully, but instinct told me it was some rule, some curse that had begun the moment we touched those graves. The cemetery wasn't just abandoned land, it was a trap, a ledger of the living and the marked. Devin finally spoke, voice hoarse and barely audible. It's counting down." "What is counting down?" I asked. He didn't answer, only shook his head. I could see now the tremor in his hands, the way he kept brushing at the soil caked under his nails as if it itched him from the inside. Mia grabbed his arm. "We can't stay here. Whatever it is, we can't fight it." I looked back at the grave with my name on it. The soil seemed to shift slightly under the weak evening light, subtle, almost imperceptible, but enough to make my stomach knot. The sense of being watched, of something waiting, pressed down on me. "Devin," I said, voice firm, "we leave, now." He didn't argue, but as we walked, he stumbled, then paused, staring at the graves as if he recognized something only he could see. His breathing was shallow, and every step left tiny clumps of dark dirt behind him, as if he was bringing the cemetery with him. Mia and I exchanged a glance, understanding that what we'd seen here wasn't random. The rules weren't clear, but they existed. Written in, marked, counting down. It didn't matter if we believed it or not. It was already real, already in motion. As we finally reached the edge of the cemetery, the shadows deepening around us, I realized that leaving might not even be enough. The curse, the mechanism, whatever it was, had already touched us, and yet none of us knew the full cost of digging our names into this living ledger. Not yet. Devin started acting strangely that night, sleepwalking, muttering our names, and waking with soil under his nails. Whatever had started in that cemetery wasn't done with us. It had only begun.
The days after our second visit were unbearable. My apartment, once a place of refuge, felt like a trap. Shadows clung to the corners of rooms, even in sunlight. I started having blackouts, brief lapses where I would wake up in strange positions, drenched in sweat, clothes muddied as if I had been outside digging. The first time I noticed something was wrong, I glanced into the bathroom mirror. At first it was just fatigue, pale skin, dark circles. Then I saw it. My reflection's edges blurred, the skin around my eyes sagging in ways that weren't real. My teeth looked brittle, cracked, and gray. I screamed, and the image snapped back to normal. I told myself it was exhaustion, a trick of the light, until it happened again, in the kitchen this time, as I poured coffee. That's when I noticed the flyers. They weren't inside the mail slot. Someone had slid them under my door. I hesitated before picking one up. My name was printed in bold letters across the top, with a grainy black and white photo of me staring directly at the camera. The funeral home's logo and date, exactly 1 week from today, stared back at me. I dropped the flyer, trembling. I ran to my phone. Mia didn't reply to texts or calls. Nothing. She had vanished from my life without explanation, as if she had never existed. Devin picked up once, but the voicemail he left was chilling. The message was his voice, but distorted, warped. Beneath it, music played softly, a funeral dirge I'd never heard before, yet it seemed painfully familiar. My stomach sank. I thought it was a prank, a sick joke orchestrated by someone who had access to my life. But the photo, the music, the blackouts, this was beyond anyone's control. This was supernatural. I stopped going outside. The floors creaked under my own feet in ways that sounded like whispers. My apartment smelled faintly of earth, of soil freshly turned, even though I had never stepped foot in the cemetery since that second visit. I would wake to find dirt on my hands, on my sheets, on the kitchen counter, with no memory of leaving my bed. I tried rational explanations, sleepwalking, stress, misprints. Each time my mind refused the comfort of logic. Something was tracking me, following me, rewriting reality around me. My photo in the obituary, that was proof. Someone or something wanted me gone, and the week written on the gravestone wasn't an idle suggestion. Every mirror became a test of courage. Every reflective surface threatened revelation. I began to see small movements in my periphery, shadows stretching longer than they should, reflections lagging behind reality, my own image sometimes blinking independently of me. I finally realized what I had to do. It wasn't enough to run. Ignoring it only made the present stronger. I had to confront it, and the only way to do that was to dig up the grave, to face whatever was buried there, whatever wasn't me. Yet. I packed a small bag, flashlight, gloves, a trowel from the kitchen drawer, and Devin's camera. My hands shook as I placed everything in the car, a cold sweat soaking my shirt. I glanced once at the scattered flyers by my door, each one a reminder of the deadline ticking down. The air outside was thick and humid, almost oppressive, but I didn't hesitate. As I drove, the streets looked different. Every familiar landmark seemed warped, twisted, like the world had been redrawn with my impending death in mind.
I avoided headlights, kept the radio off, listening only to the tires crunching gravel and the low hum of the engine. Somewhere in the back of my mind, I felt a presence riding with me, invisible but insistent. Every mirror in the car reflected not just me, but flashes of something else, glimpses of pale skin, dark eyes, and mouths I didn't recognize moving silently. I knew this night would decide everything. Either I would dig up the grave and face the thing waiting beneath the soil, or I would ignore it and let it claim me, one way or another. By the time the familiar gravel lane appeared ahead, cutting through the skeletal trees, I realized I was no longer the same person who had laughed at Devon's jokes just days before. Every heartbeat, every shiver, every hallucination had reshaped me. I wasn't just scared, I was hunted, and I was ready to fight. The cemetery gate came into view, iron, twisted, and overgrown. The shadows of the graves stretched long, waiting. I tightened my grip on the trowel and braced myself. Whatever lay beneath that soil was not just a threat to my life, it was the embodiment of the countdown. And it had been waiting for me all along. And I was finally coming back.
The gravel crunched beneath my feet as I stepped into the cemetery under a starless sky. Everything smelled of wet earth and decay, the faint scent of moss mixing with the metallic tang of blood, or maybe it was just soil disturbed too recently. My hands shook as I held the trowel, gloves slick with sweat and rain. Every instinct screamed at me to turn back, but I couldn't. The flyers, the blackouts, Devon, Mia, everything pointed to one undeniable truth. I had to dig. The soil around my grave was loose, dark, and impossibly cold. Each shovelful felt heavier than the last, like the earth itself was resisting me. My breath came in ragged gasps, mist curling in the chill night air. As I worked, I could hear faint whispers in the wind, words I couldn't understand but recognized instantly as pleas. Don't do it. Don't touch it. Finally, after what felt like hours, the trowel hit something solid. My heart lurched. I knelt and brushed away the soil, revealing a coffin. It was simple, wooden, unadorned, yet it radiated a sense of inevitability. The lid was tight, as if it had been sealed for centuries. My pulse spiked, but I forced myself to pry it open. And there it was, me. Not a reflection, not a photograph, a body, lying in perfect stillness, dressed in the same clothes I was wearing now, my shoes, my jacket, even the crumpled t-shirt beneath my hoodie. I stumbled back, gagging, shaking my head. This isn't real. It can't be. A hand, pale and rigid, twitched. My pulse hit my ears. I leaned closer, drawn like a moth to a flame. And that's when it happened. The eyes opened, gray, glassy, and impossibly deep. And I saw it breathe. I stumbled backward, horror coiling in my stomach. I couldn't scream. My voice was gone. A laugh, low, uneven, not quite Devon's, echoed from the shadows. I turned, and there he was. Devon, pale, rigid, eyes black in the moonlight. His lips moved, but the words weren't his own. "It has to match," he said, his voice monotone, controlled, as though every syllable had been forced from him. "It has to match." My hands froze over the trowel. I wanted to run, but my legs refused. Every instinct screamed at me that stepping closer meant death,
but I couldn't look away from the coffin, my coffin. Then Mia's voice came, faint at first, a whisper in the darkness. "Don't look at its face," she pleaded, echoing as if carried from a distance I couldn't measure. "Whatever you do, don't look at its face." I forced my gaze away from the coffin, trying to focus on the shadows. Devon's body moved jerkily, pulling toward the coffin as if gravity itself demanded obedience. His hand reached out, trembling, and the shadows seemed to stretch toward him, feeding the motion, dictating it. Something in the air shifted. I felt the earth pulse beneath me, a heartbeat synchronized with the opening of that coffin. I realized then the terrible truth. This wasn't a coincidence, a prank, or even random fate. The written grave was real. It had rules, and it had chosen its next occupant. Whoever matched the body exactly, down to the clothes, to the moment in time, became the next candidate. The prophecy had to fulfill itself, and nothing could stop it. A cold wind blew, carrying whispers that weren't Mia's, weren't Devon's, voices from graves I hadn't seen, names I hadn't read, all warning me, all screaming impossibilities. More were written in. I understood it now. This cemetery wasn't abandoned. It was a ledger, a record of who the grave demanded. I could run, but it didn't matter. I fell to my knees, heart hammering, staring at my own body. The breath it drew was shallow, deliberate, yet undeniably alive. My hands itched to touch it again, to verify that it was real, that the earth hadn't just conjured a nightmare from my mind. But the moment my fingers brushed the cold wood, Devon's voice cut through. "It has to match." Panic seized me. I scrambled backward, tripping over roots and uneven ground, mud and water soaking through my shoes. The paths twisted around me, familiar paths I thought I knew, looping impossibly, as if the cemetery itself had shifted. Every turn brought me back to the same coffin, the same shadows, the same echoing voices. "Stop! Devon!" I screamed, trying to reach him. But his form vanished like smoke, leaving only the low rustle of trees and the faint creak of soil settling. Mia's voice pierced the darkness again, closer this time. "Run! Just run! Don't look back!" I did. I ran blindly. The cold, wet grass tearing at my palms when I fell, the mud clinging to me like fingers trying to hold me down. Each grave I passed seemed to ripple slightly, like the ground remembered who had touched it, who had been marked. I dared not glance at the coffins, but I could feel them, waiting, watching, breathing in tandem with my racing heartbeat. Finally, I reached the edge of what I thought was the exit. Gravel, trees, the gate. But it was all wrong. Every path led back, every turn returned me to the same impossibly shifted clearing. My coffin, my corpse, Devon whispering, Mia screaming. It was endless. And then I realized the final horrifying truth. The written grave didn't just mark you, it owned you. Once you were written in, the cemetery itself became a maze, a trap, a counting clock ticking down to the moment your name was fulfilled. I swallowed hard, chest burning, lungs heaving. I had touched it, and now the ledger had begun its work. My reflection in the darkness, in puddles, broken mirrors, anything reflective, looked the same as the corpse in that coffin, alive, yet not, breathing, yet already claimed. I wanted to scream, to flee, to break the rules somehow, but deep inside, I knew there was no escaping, not tonight, not ever. The cemetery waited, infinite,
and it knew my name.
I made it back home, though I'm not sure how. The streets felt wrong, twisted in ways that weren't there before. My apartment was the same, familiar, comforting, until I stepped inside. The air was thick with damp soil. Walls were streaked with mud, dust, and faint fingerprints that weren't mine. The clock on the wall had stopped, the hands frozen on the date from the tombstone. I staggered to the bathroom mirror. My reflection no longer resembled me. The skin on my face sagged slightly, subtle but undeniable. My hands were mottled, grayish and stiff at the joints. I reached out to touch my reflection, and the image trembled as though it were alive. Every breath I took felt heavier, like each inhale was filling lungs already marked for decay. I collapsed onto the floor, a chill crawling up my spine. Panic clawed at me. It's still not over. It's still coming for me. I tried to call Mia, tried to text Devon. Nothing. No responses. My phone buzzed endlessly with failed messages, notifications that never sent. Even the internet felt wrong. In a moment of desperation, I opened my laptop and posted everything, every detail, every moment of the cemetery, the graves, the corpse. I begged for help, warned anyone who would listen. Don't touch the grave. Don't ignore the signs. Whatever you do, leave it alone. At first, there were comments, people asking questions, sharing theories. I felt a small surge of hope. Maybe someone could save me. Maybe the written grave had limits. But with every refresh, the comments disappeared. First a handful, then dozens, then nearly all of them. It was as if anyone reading my warnings was slowly erased from existence. The idea slammed into me. If you're reading this, you're already written in too. I tried to leave the apartment, to escape the creeping rot that now seemed to occupy every corner of my being. But the hallway stretched longer than it should have. The doors didn't open the same way. The air smelled increasingly of soil, damp and oppressive. My body ached, muscles weakening, skin cracking at the edges. Every movement was a reminder that I was no longer entirely alive. I sank to the floor and began typing again, words spilling from trembling fingers, confessions, warnings, the raw terror I could not hold in. I felt my consciousness slipping, like sand through a clenched fist. The more I wrote, the more I understood the truth. This wasn't just a curse for one night or one grave. It was a ledger, a countdown, and the moment it was written, it was inevitable. I paused, staring at the screen. My reflection in the black laptop surface wasn't mine anymore. Eyes dull, cheeks hollowing, lips cracked. My body is slowly becoming the corpse I saw in that coffin, the version of myself that had already been claimed. The irony is unbearable. I can still feel, still think, still remember. But my time is finite. My posts are my last connection to the world outside the ledger. Every comment disappearing reminds me that the living aren't safe. Even reading this puts you at risk. I tried to scream, but my voice caught in my throat. Every inhale was a struggle. Every movement of my fingers felt like dragging through earth. I wanted to run, to undo everything, to rip my name off that gravestone, but I know that's impossible. So I write. I leave this message for whoever finds it, whoever dares to read. Know this, the cemetery waits. It remembers. It marks. Every heartbeat, every reflection, every name written, it's counting down. I don't know if I am dead yet, or if I'm already walking among the forgotten.
I don't know if help will come or if you are already next. All I know is that the countdown is real and there is no running from it. If you are reading this, know that the ledger has marked you too. It watches, it waits, and the moment your name matches what it seeks, there will be no turning back.
Weeks later, I no longer recognize the world I left behind. I can only watch through fractured glimpses and whispers as the cycle continues. The cemetery waits, patient, ancient, indifferent to time, feeding on curiosity and the unheeding. A new group of travelers stumbled upon the same overgrown path, laughing, joking, unaware. Their van squeaked as it parked on the edge of the gravel lane, the sun low and shadows long. One of them, a girl with a camera slung around her neck, wandered toward the iron gate, brushing leaves aside. The grass seemed to part for her, the wind stilling as if holding its breath. She stepped over the threshold, eyes scanning the scattered, weathered headstones. For a moment, everything was normal. The gentle rustle of the trees, the soft hum of distant insects. Then one grave caught her attention. Freshly dug soil, smooth and unbroken, a headstone freshly carved, pale and chilling in the twilight. She bent down and gasped, a name, one of her own. Her friends rushed over, calling her name, laughing nervously, making light of the shock. She shook her head, pale, voice trembling. "Look, it has my name here!" From somewhere deep in the trees, a faint whisper curled around them, brushing their ears, teasing the edges of perception. It has to match. The camera dropped from her hands, clattering against the roots. The wind picked up, rustling the leaves into an almost imperceptible rhythm, like fingers running across a ledger of names. The friends looked at each other, unease seeping into their laughter, a slow, creeping panic. The cemetery had already begun to shift around them. Paths that should have led out twisted inward. Shadows lengthened, folding over graves, over them, and the air thickened with the scent of damp soil and inevitability. No one moved, no one spoke, as if the place itself demanded silence. I watch from the cracks between worlds, powerless and bound to this story. My name is still written in soil and reflection, etched into mirrors, photographs, and the minds of anyone who dares read, watch, or listen. I can feel their fear mirrored and magnified by the ledger's reach. The girl's eyes widen, panic rising. She glances around, breath shallow. The wind whispers again, clearer this time, almost tangible. It has to match. And I realize the truth. The moment this story reaches someone new, the curse grows. Every viewer, every reader, every ear that hears the tale risks joining the ledger. The cemetery waits patiently, knowing its next names, marking them silently until the moment comes to claim them. The screen would fade, the forest swallowing them in shadows, leaving the echo of that single chilling phrase lingering in the mind. It has to match. And now, if your name appears next, if your pulse quickens at the thought, there is only one thing to remember. Run. Don't linger. Don't look back. The path will twist, the shadows will follow, and curiosity itself will write your name in stone. I am gone, yet present. I am the warning and the witness. The grave writes back.
The grave remembers. The ledger writes again. Names are marked, and the moment curiosity crosses the line, it finds you. If you ever stumble upon a grave with your own name, would you dare to dig it up? Or would you run and hope it doesn't catch you? The story doesn't end here. Every comment, every share, every view keeps the shadows alive. And maybe, just maybe, your name is next. If you survived this tale, subscribe to Grimora Stories for more stories that haunt long after the lights go out. And tell us in the comments, what would you do if you saw your name on a grave?
Grimora.